Hello, everyone. This is Mr. E29, and welcome to the inaugural episode of The House of Mystery. Today's guests, we have Mr. Mahvel. Please say hello.
Hey,
All right. Today, we are going to be talking about Comicsgate and where it is right now. Um, we both have issues with the movement as it's currently going, and we're here to address that.
yeah, let's go. Open it up.
Mr. Marvel, you had a tweet that you tweeted out. It said, and I quote, "Shit sucks around here, and we all know it. This ain't a consumer revolt. It's a shell of its former glory. This isn't good books made. It's gimme money. This ain't fun. Only few went out. Ain't us, chief. Ain't us." How'd you come to that? Where's that from?
That's just kind of from a deep frustration at seeing how the original point was lost. You know, no one's no one's that. Well, no, I don't want to say no one, but a huge vocal group have kind of stopped caring about whether or not comics are coming out or whether there's good comics or good indie comics, and it's more about this constant anger and bickering and back and forth. Just and it like this really deep tribalism that I just feel took away the original message of everything of let's breathe life back into comic books.
Yeah. When I first got into it, this was shortly before the make my milkshake happen. What I saw are a lot of people who really wanted their classic characters back, who wanted uh, to read the comics about the characters that they have known and cared about for years, but weren't able to because of the current direction that the companies were taking them. And from there, it kind of shifted to okay, since they're not going to listen to us and they're not going to write the characters the way we prefer them, we'll make our own comics. And from there, I feel like there was kind of a split between people who just wanted good books and the people who were out to make books and to make profit off of those books. What do you think about that?
Well, I mean, you're absolutely correct. It broke off into branches. I mean, you could even break those down furthermore. You know, you had your people that wanted characters restored. You had people that wanted certain creators taken off of stuff. Uh, you had your indie creators, ones looking to, make their own one and done books. You had others that wanted to kind of make universes and whatnot to get together. You had others that wanted to start new publishing companies. And everybody just kind of uh, lumped together under the same banner. If I mean, at least that's what I saw from my point of view.
Yeah, I saw that as well. It's people under the same banner, but what they actually want, what their end goal is, all seem to be a bit different.
Absolutely.
Um, you know, the different end games, it's fine for an individual, but it's not fine for when you want to create a movement, which is what a lot of people are saying that CG is. And, you know, when you when people have their own end games, it leads to infighting. And, you know, it also leads to pushing people out because of that infighting, either because some people feel that they are under attack, or people who, like me and like you, just don't feel like dealing with all the drama that's coming from it.
Right. Um, you know, it at a certain point you just kind of you really got to get the bickering to stop. That's the only thing that will really get anything going. That's also one of the hardest things to pull off. Um, but I think it, yeah, I mean that's you got to get that sense of um tribes butting heads to go away, which is really tough because even I don't know. You know what I mean? I don't exactly have answers to how to get like reconstructed under the same banner once again. Especially because I'm a big believer of everybody doesn't have to get along. Um, but you have a good point on the focus on the individual rather than a movement. And even there, I get I kind of get the duality to that. Because I've been one, a member of a movement, two, I've been a creator supported by said movement.
That's right. You created one pool,
Yes, sir.
and
And one thing I will always say, um, whether I was able to see it at the beginning or not, ultimately, when I sat down and looked at everything, I was very well supported by the comics geek community. I mean, and I will always forever thank them. I was very well supported, and for that, I'm going to make sure I get another good book out to them.
oh, that's great. I'm looking forward to seeing it.
Thank you.
One other thing I wanted to talk about is, you know, the bigger names, the Don Ellerose, the Diversity in Comics, the EVSs. They seem to really, drive the movement, but I feel like some of them are trying to also steer the movement into something that would be what is most beneficial for them.
I mean, eh, but I mean, to an extent, we all are. I think it's the bigger your audience, the more you're able to get that following to your end game, if that makes sense. I don't think so
Yeah.
much the individual, but the following behind it. Because I mean, even me, I'm out for the individual to an extent. I just happen to be a little bit more of I'm still more of the member of a community as opposed to a creator.
Yeah, I can see that. Um, I can understand how you want it to be successful for you as a creator, but you're still very much a community type guy.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's I've just kind of I don't know, how do I put it? Uh you always want to belong. You always want to feel like you belong to something. Like you fit in somewhere. Uh and once I felt, hey, I fit in here, you know, you enjoy the space. You enjoy the people within the space and you want to see the space thrive. You know what I mean? So even though, I you know, the way I produce, the way I create is ultimately for the benefit of my life and my ability to pay for my life. Um, I still want to make sure that the space I inhabit is good and healthy and moving, because ultimately, in the end, that only helps me. You know, when people are talking about comics, when people are wanting to see good comics, when people are laughing and looking for entertainment, and they're feeling, that sense of joy, and there's something to look forward to, me personally as a creator succeed more because I can provide that entertainment outlet to that thriving community.
What do you think of the original goal, the return on classic characters to the way they used to be? Do you still think that's a viable or
Now, here's the
ideal
thing.
goal to strive for?
I have never been uh, part of that camp. And that's only because I'm one of the very few people that say the mantle should have been passed years ago and the passing of mantles wouldn't be a shocking thing. You know what I mean?
I
Um,
feel
had there been consistent, when a character actually has his good heroic death, it was honored and the mantle gets passed, nobody now would be shocked when you pass a mantle. But they always had this bad habit of they just bring the character back to life. You know, so after a while, it's almost like you, it almost becomes like a routine habit. You know that it's tough to not see the individual you have for decades being that character. With that said, I'm not saying that what we were given were any good either. Because we definitely weren't given good replacements. There weren't honorable mantle passings. There weren't things that, you know, as the reader, as the fan, you said to yourself, yeah, no, that's awesome. This is the new person. Because I don't think there's anything wrong with passing a mantle correctly and with honor. But definitely what they gave was bad. So it definitely like if you're not going to pass a mantle, yes, definitely restore the characters. And you know, if you really want to see new people replace the titles, uh, you do so with respect to the reader, to respect to the original character, and in the way that everybody feels good and excited and they're looking forward to the new adventures of the new identity behind their favorite mask.
I feel like some characters don't work as mantles personally.
Right.
Cap. I know they passed the mantle of Captain America around before, but to me, Captain America is very hard to do a mantle because Captain America, in my opinion, should be political but yet apolitical. It should be a character that touches on political issues, but the thing and the values that the character stands for should be something that unites everybody in the country.
Right.
And I feel that when they gave the mantle to Sam Wilson, it took a side politically. It took one side of the aisle politically and stopped being the character that unites people.
Well, once again, that comes down to bad writing, um, bad intentions. Had the mantle been passed down honorably, I think a lot more people would have accepted Sam. I still think it would have failed because me personally, I like Sam Wilson as a Falcon. He's his own character. He's his own hero. Um, I just think the way he fights works better being the Falcon. He's not a good match to take the mantle only because you know the fighting style is too awkward. You know, I don't see him flying around. I don't know. It bothered me. The thought of it bothered me tactically.
Yeah,
Um,
I agree with you.
and I
The
think that was my biggest beef with it. It was more things on technical aspects rather than you know what ended up being written and making it to page. It was more like, oh, dude, that just kind of doesn't even make sense. That's weird. But he has wings. What is he, Captain American Eagle? Like that's weird. You know, he can't be the symbol of America. He's not an eagle. He's a falcon. You know, there
yeah,
were so many things that bothered me.
not only that, but I always imagine that if he's flying and then he throws the shield, that shield is lost.
Yeah,
Like I can't imagine a way that he could throw it while flying, but it would careen back to him like the way Captain America does it.
I mean, it would have to be some kind of a system where he used his goggles to lock onto it and form a preset path for him. So almost like with one of those like little games where you have to like a gem breaking game where you point the little marble at the wall and then you see the different pattern with like a dotted line. It would probably have to be something like that so that he could predict where it is he'd have to be to catch it.
Yeah,
That could be
he'd essentially have to have his suit built with a AI or a computer to calculate the angle the shield needs to be at and where he needs to be
right.
before he throws it.
Right. Now,
All
let's
right.
say something like that is built by Tony Stark specifically to help him, then you get even better, right? You know what I mean? You can make it work, but you gotta put the work.
Yeah, I feel like we're getting a bit off topic,
Yeah.
but
No,
all right,
definitely we will.
get getting back on topic. I feel that parts of being in CG just aren't fun anymore because of a lot of the infighting and people being at people's throats. It's definitely something that would make people just want to leave. I have a friend who goes by Donna Troy, and she just had enough of the infighting and just said, "Hey, don't tag me in any of this CG stuff anymore. I'm out. Just you can still talk to me. Just don't include me anymore of it." And that's a shame because Donna's a really cool person.
Oh no, I know Donna. Me and her, we go back. We used to talk a lot more back in the day.
Yeah, that's the kind of thing I'm talking about. People who are sick of all the time spent infighting instead of what we should actually be doing to advance as a movement.
Yeah, I mean, from my point of view, it drains the fun of uh like I'm kind of easy to like get angry over seeing my friends going through it. You know, and every so often, well, actually, not even more and more, you jump on and you see your friends going through it. And you're like, I don't want to get into it, but it's like after a while, they get to your good friend. And you're like, what's going on here? Or worse, you see two of your good friends go at it. You know, me, I've gone at it with some of my good friends that I've been friends with since uh, the movement started. And I've just now, after a year almost, uh, rekindled the friendships. And that's the things that bother me the most and that I think is draining the fun is that as more splits happen, more divides, more relationships get severed. You know, people leave, people stop talking, people mute each other, people unfollow things. You know, I mean, I know you've seen it as well as I have. The amount of people that are like, "Hey, I love you guys to death, but if I see you post anything more on this subject or this person or whatever, I'm just gonna have to unfollow you." That's a shame.
Yeah, I've definitely in private uh, had some conversations about one for people in the group going at it and causing discord because there was a time over the last summer where I had lost access to the internet, so I wasn't really able to talk to people as often as I was. And then when I got it back, it was just, all right, we're gonna catch you up on all this drama, and I'm like, why? It seems to be a lot of people are don't know how to let things go. They are getting upset and then they're holding on to it like a grudge. And you have to they have to learn how to let things go. Otherwise, you know, you will lose not only followers but also friends too.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. So I have to say that as much as I enjoy talking to some people in CG, I feel like we waste so much time searching for drama because that's what runs channels like um, DNC, Yellow Flash, EVS, Umbrella Guy. Like I feel like they do more things about Twitter drama than about actual comic books.
Mm, I mean, it's the common trend now. You know, it's what sells. Uh, you know, I don't think I'm gonna. I think it would be a two-way street. If me were going to cast blame, it would be the two-way street. I wouldn't put it completely on the people broadcasting drama for views. Completely, I'd also put it on the people constantly looking for it. You know, as a creator, you make what people want to see. You know, I think it would be more of the two-way street of not so much. Some people are always broadcasting drama as much. You know, it's also the equally of a lot of people want to keep seeing it. You know, it's entertaining. And I don't know why. I mean, I guess I know why, but um, I feel like I feel like you could get drama views without constantly dragging certain things or certain people out.
Yeah,
You
I
know,
feel like while the
like
drama may get views, it's also hurting our image. I feel that because we're always so focused on drama and getting into arguments with so and so, or bashing some creator on the internet, that it definitely has hurt the very idea of confiscate and is kind of delegitimized our original grievances.
um, it, the thing is, and I'm not at all advocating for policing a movement, but if you don't have any kind of rules or anything, everyone's free to act how they want. You know, you get people that are more eccentric than others, and you're gonna get that with everything. Uh, I think it has more to do with, once again, people constantly looking for it. You know, if you got a huge wave and everybody wants to be part of the wave, everybody's gonna go to that wave. Um, it's got to start being everybody, not giving it attention in a broader sense, so that the people that are eccentric and outspoken and like to take it past what it needs to, single themselves out because they're the only ones showing up to that party. you
Yeah,
know but if everybody constantly goes over to one thing, I'm sorry, but you got to take blame for it. That's how it works. It's just how it works. Especially because that's the rule we impose on the opposition, for a lack of better word. you know we tend to be like, oh well, this person, so that's how it is. You've associated, you work with, you defend, you do this, and it gets flipped on you. um
I
and
agree that we should hold um, people on quote unquote our side to a certain standard. Again, I don't want to. I'm not trying to police things that people say, obviously, but certain
it,
things, certain bad behavior when it happens, should definitely be called out. But I think the difference is on the opposing side of it is that many of them are professionals in this industry, and I think the thing that we get upset about is that many of them also behave in a highly unprofessional manner. Like
right.
Max, I believe it was Max Bemis, who was working on Moon Knight and told people to, I believe it was feast upon his ass for reasons that I can't even imagine. And the thing was, nobody was even insulting Max Bemis. People were actually saying that his Moonlight book were good and they were recommending it. But for reasons I will never know, he decided to come out with that tweet.
um Now that gets into something else. So then that forces me to speak on something else, because I am Mr. Neutrality, and here's what I always say. Uh, you got to be able to have a fucking thick skin if you also want to be able to say whatever the fuck you want. If you notice, I laughed when you reread his quote. I remember that quote, and the first thing I did was laugh, not get offended, not get
I
triggered.
mean,
You
I
know what I
wasn't
mean?
offended by it. It was just,
But
it,
all right, those are probably not the words I wanted. It was not something that was of grand issue to me. I don't care. We don't show enough of I don't care. That's actually the only way to beat them. You get any reaction and they win. That's what they want. They want the reaction. He won. He beat everyone. No matter what happened to him in the end, that moment of what he posted, that tweet won because it got the reaction. It's people need to stop reacting in such a way. Who cares? It's been months, maybe going on a year, that I stopped caring. Who cares? Uh, if it's a big time pro, who cares? All right, they said it. Don't buy their book. Done. End of issue. But if you drag it out for a week, if everybody and their mother makes a video, if they all those videos get 1,000+ views, if 1,000 screenshots are retweeted, resent, regone, oh my God, then you once again bring in the eccentrics. Then you start getting everyone has to share the blame for what everybody said for this one thing. And everyone forgets you are not anywhere near a platform you will ever win. You have lost before you got to fight. You lost before they threw the first hit. Period. Let it go. That's it. That's the society we live in. Move on. There's other things to do. But people haven't grasped that. They haven't grasped that society changed. And yes, that dude can say whatever the fuck he wants at you. The only way he wins is when you care. Let them fucking retweet it. Let them say it all they want. It doesn't matter. You know, remember, it's not what they call you. It's what you answer to.
Okay.
That's my take, at least. And I say that from the basis of that's one of those things where I stand neutral at, where it's um for about a year now, it's been the same pattern. Someone of high position in a big company says something awful, big huge meltdown in the community. Nothing happens to the person. Rinse, repeat. If in the end, the movement always will suffer because whatever was said bad by the most extreme within the movement gets attached to everyone, and that's the only thing people will see the movement for. No one sees the awesome people. They don't see the retweeting of art. They don't see the 50 reply thread talking about a Namor comic from '96. You know, they only see the bad player. And that's what keeps happening. Rinse, repeat.
I do agree that we should focus more on the positive side of things. However, I also believe that a person who is in a professional industry should behave should behave professionally. I don't think that's I don't think that's too far out there.
Oh, no, I agree. But nothing's ever going to be done. So, yeah, I mean, the yelling can go until you're blue in the face, and you could be as right as you want. But that company agrees with the side that will always win. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
They're never going to be held to that standard until people realize that they're never going to be held to that standard. They're going to yell blue in the face, professionalism, professionalism. And I mean, that company, I don't know what's even more just obvious, just let it go, than their higher ups congratulate internet adversaries for once again wiping the floor with whoever went at them.
Yeah. I've
Move
seen
on.
that.
Let's talk about good stuff.
So where do you think the movement is going to go in the future?
Right now, I think it's gonna continue exactly as it is and remain stagnant and be the next Gamergate. You know, technically completely right in what they're saying, but every year they'll get smeared more and more and blamed more and more. They'll become that boogeyman that the opposing side will always blame and smear as a threat to society, and that's unfortunate.
So do you think we should just focus on create our own books about making and publishing, our own titles, or do you
Honestly,
think do you think it should just evaporate?
uh I think I think I don't know. Um I think I don't know. Because I rely on that movement existing to an extent. You know what I mean? Uh that's one of the groups I would uh basically that's my demographic of who I want to reach. So I wouldn't want to see a movement disbanded. I would just want to see it, kind of start being more aware of itself in the future it wants to bring itself to. Even I, in the last few days, kind of had that self awareness of, well, do I want to be another asshole complaining, or do I want to get that back down to business and, double down on awesome creativity? You kind of get, I hate that old phrase, but you got to be the change you want to see. You
Yeah,
got to call out that things have gone in a wrong way. And instead of continuing to be angry, show them another way to go. You know, I'm sure I could yell all day long on Twitter on how I hate how things have gone. Um, but I think in the end, getting back to giving another outlet away from the industry that people are unhappy with is my best effort. And maybe what needs to happen is everybody refocusing on what their best effort actually is.
yeah, I agree that's the way to go. But
You know,
in my opinion, even if you know CG did end, I feel the ghost of it would definitely still linger because even if we stopped using the name CG, we're still going to have our opinions about um, comics, and I feel like the moment that somebody says their opinion on comic that um, a certain type of character or a creator isn't good or this book was you know crappy, that they're going to be labeled CG and just get a bunch of people crapping on them.
probably. Um,
So I feel like even if we wanted it to end, it wouldn't end.
but I mean, it doesn't. It like I said, it doesn't. It's not that it has to end. It just has to remember what it is that it once stood for and what it should go back to standing for. And that's why I said every individual should go back to reevaluating what their best effort is. If you are one of the people that, quote unquote, share drama, maybe you should get back more to the, you know what? No, they're always going to be needed because it's good entertainment. Um, it should be not so much of an anger as more informative. People need to get back to being reporters instead of pundits, if that makes sense. You always need someone informing people of what's wrong, of what's going on, keeping people, waking back up to what's wrong and refilling, the numbers of the movement. I think they should go back to being reporters instead of pundits. When they were reporters, they did a lot better, and they were still really entertaining. Um, I think creators should get back to just pumping out great stuff, you know, and the more prestigious of a creator you are, the more you should be pumping out, especially 100% because there's a lot of people that look up to the biggest top names. You know what I mean? And they deserve their heroes and they deserve for their heroes to be allowed to shine and pump out their good stuff, so they should get back to pumping out that good stuff because in the end, that's what people love the most. Um, and everyone, once again, deserves their heroes on whatever side, whoever you like, whatever big name. They're all super talented. Everybody at the top deserves whatever fame and recognition they have. I think they should get back to giving people what what makes them awesome. And
Speaking of speaking of creators, one thing that I've noticed is that a lot of these creators are coming on, and they don't. I feel like their whole purpose is to get their titles funded without knowing or caring that much about the community that they are now associating themselves with.
I see that. Um, I don't know. Uh, it's tough. It's a tough one for me to call. Uh, because some days I ask myself, you know, how would I conduct myself at such a high level given the admiration and adoration that the top names get? Um, you want to hope you stay the way you are, but you never know. Sometimes things get to people's head. Um, but that's why, once again, I get back to the don't forget what made you a big, huge top name, and don't forget the people look up to you, and it's not even so much uh, like the small time creators. It's the fans, it's the little guys, it's the ones that want to have that hero. Um, Definitely, one can say that the focus seems to be more on generating funds, and I would play devil's advocate and say um, I would totally not believe that if I saw more stuff get pumped out. You know,
Yeah.
I think all it takes is constantly showing that something's happening. You don't necessarily have to, stick rigidly to a plan because God knows I'm awful at that. But I feel on a whole, it should get back more to remembering what made you a superstar and getting back to that. You know, Nothing wrong with trying to get a buck, um, but show the people how much you love them. You know what I mean? I'll give you the benefit of the doubt that you know how much they love you. And I'll get back to showing them how much you know that they love you.
Are there any creators you feel have been, that stand out amongst those in CG? I know there are big names like EVS and John Malin, but any of the newer creators that you feel have been exceptional?
Um, Now, here's the thing. As a creator myself, I stopped kind of paying attention to what everybody else was doing and focus on my own. Um, I gotta say, really, Donald DeLay, I love. I love interacting with him. I love seeing how he interacts. Um, I like his stuff. I like his art a lot too. Um, and I really love that anyone can approach him for commissions still. You know what I mean? Like, that's awesome. So yeah, you know what? I would give a shout out to Donald DeLay. Uh, Definitely love him, and I love to see the way he interacts with people.
There's one creator I interacted with, I believe his name is Ben Jones. Um, I was on a live stream with him on England's channel. He's a great guy, and from what I've seen of his art, he is incredibly talented. And I encourage people should definitely check out his work.
Yeah,
But do you?
yeah. Oh, there's still a lot of really good creators from really up there to just getting their feet wet. Um, I guess even me included. I try my best to interact with people and to stay part of the community myself. Sometimes it's a little easier than others because things can get busy. Um,
Uh, Tell me how the community was helping you when you were making one pool.
um, well, first and foremost, the biggest help I ever got from the community was accepting him without making fun of him. One of my biggest fears with a character like Rumpool is, I didn't want people laughing at him. I wanted them laughing with him and the things he was doing, and that's what I got. And I think the biggest help was the good reception. Um, Definitely a lot of retweets, lots of move the needle hashtags. I definitely got on quite a few chats. There were quite a few reviews by people of prominence. Weaponized Nerd Rage gave me one. Grand Comics gave me one. Um, Quite a few. Number one Marmaduke fan gave me a lot of push. Um, even in those days, Edwin Boyette, he was giving me a hand, giving me a push. A lot of people stood up to give me a push. I think just about everyone I've ever interacted with on a personal friendly level on Twitter gave me a push, gave me a boost. Um, I got way more love than I gave credit for, and that's why I always am very apologetic in my thinking of the community, because they helped me out a lot.
What was your inspiration for the character? I mean, I saw that it was a parody of, I believe, Deadpool.
Gwenpool, he is a parody of Gwenpool. Just Captain Cummins, back in the beginning of his channels, used to have like a meme contest, and one of the week's subjects was Gwenpool, and I came up with the concept of a big fat Mexican guy in the costume, and I captioned it. I was going to caption it with, if Marvel cared about diversity, this is what Gwenpool would look like. And I didn't finish it in time to make a submission, but I kept working on it anyways, and I put it on Twitter, and it really didn't get too much notice. And, I kind of threw him out there a couple times, and then finally he stuck. And then people kept asking exactly what the character was all about. And at that point, I realized I would have to build him from the ground up with a traditional origin. Because even the adventures I came up with that I started to outline, unless you knew where he came from, it was too much of a meme and not enough of a character. And that's pretty much what Journey of the Juan is. It's making him a character, making him a superhero that I can tell adventures about.
That's really cool. And are you planning on doing another Juan book?
Well, right now, the thing is, Juan Journey of the Juan it's a three-part origin story. It's all written. There's already, it's all completely written. Now it's a matter of producing the second part and then producing the third part. I'm going to release those two digitally as well. And then I'm thinking of possibly doing a campaign to fund the complete trade of Journey of the One. And I'm thinking it's probably going to be around 75 to 80 pages.
Now, when you release the trade, if you release the trade, would you do this by order, or would you want to have this in stores?
I would be pushing, well, at bare minimum, by order. It would be, whoever pledges the campaign gets a book. And then I start then I take it to the next step of getting it into stores. I'm kind of myself working with a very small label that's trying to, like a startup label, Science Wizard Comics, that I'm going to be hopefully getting things out underneath.
Are you writing and doing the artwork yourself, or are you working with anybody?
I do. One Pool is all mine. It's my own pet project. I wrote it, penciled, inked, colored, and lettered the whole thing myself. It's a from scratch project. I also like to use it as an example of anybody can go out there and make a comic book. You know what I mean? The only thing that's stopping you is you.
There's something that you mentioned before that I want to get back to. You mentioned that people used hashtag move the needle when they were talking about your book to get it out there.
Yeah.
Move the needle is one of the things that I saw. We had every intention of it being something good, but people on the opposing side, because it was associated with us, gave it bad connotations. And there were people like Peter Simeti who were happy that people were using the hashtag to spread alternate comic books. To, they started getting on them for using the hashtag, even though it was entirely meant to be something that was positive.
Right. And unfortunately, they win and it's gone. And it sucks because that's usually my answer to just about anything that goes down like that. Yeah, I know, I saw that and it sucks and we lost it. because that gets back to the whole it's their home turf. You know, they have home field advantage. Whatever they do is going to stick. Um, you know, and I think it's a little too late too. The stigma has been given to the hashtag. You know, same way with Gamergate. Uh, and that there's just nothing you could do besides completely changing society first. You know what I mean? Because that then it gets out of comic books and goes to a whole entire societal issue. Because you'll find that that happens in just about every entertainment outlet, anything, politics, comedy, sports. It's just an epidemic.
Yeah, I've seen it
Yeah.
happen in Magic the Gathering, Warhammer 40K, obviously video games. It seems anywhere where people had a hobby and there wasn't really an issue, they come in and make things an issue. Like,
Yeah.
I don't remember anybody telling me that, you know, women or minorities or whatever can't enjoy comic books, or that there weren't characters who were, black or Latino, or women who weren't powerful and awesome. And it just seems to me that the characters, they exist, but they might not be as power uh popular as characters like Superman or Batman or Spider-Man, and they see that as a problem.
Yeah. I mean, but that's because the people you're referring to, you know, it's not so much that they're entering, it's their job to scour every single thing they can. The opposition that the community faces on Twitter, for example, is that specific branch of that specific ideology that specifically scours everything within that media. You know what I mean? They're not real fans. Uh, they want to take it, homogenize it, so that it can be shared with the monolithic diversity they create. You know, where it's not real diversity, it's just every single person's exactly the same.
Yeah, there
You
there are
know,
real fans who
because
definitely believe that. I was
sorry.
Englentine. Englentine did a stream where he invited people who were anti-CG on, and one of them, I believe his name was John. He definitely was a comic book fan, but he also believed in all of this social justice nonsense. And it seemed like he is someone who's been a fan for years should know that all the things that they're complaining about aren't true, but because he believes in this ideology, he kind of forces himself to see it that way.
Now, and that's and then that goes down to the individual. A perfect example. After watching Into the Spider Verse, I would accept that version of Miles Morales being the new Spider Man because it they made him appeal to me and my demographic. He was hood. He listened to hip hop. His father was black. His mom was a real Spanish lady. You know what I mean? I know that family. Like I hung up with that kid. That kid's mad cool. I know, you know what I mean? Uh,
Yeah,
and if you, let's say someone is already within that ideology and likes comics, you can easily sway them to your side because now their comic gets to be shared with the ideology, if that makes sense. So now finally, I like Miles Morales because he is now within my ideology of inner city living, if that analogy makes sense. And that's how you get people like the guy you just described, where they're legit fans that know their stuff. Because I've run into them. You know, there's definitely fans on the other side that they know their stuff, and you can't argue with them on stuff like that. Um, but they prefer it because they're completely into that ideology. So they liked Captain America all the way until this point, and now they really like Captain America because he fits their ideology.
yeah. Personally, I never really got that. Um, I never really identified with people who, in that ideology, I should identify with. Um, I'm black. I am a computer science major. By that logic, I should really love Riri Williams. I hate that character so freaking much. But one character that I really did enjoy, and when I was getting into comics, became one of my favorite comic characters, and still is the third Blue Beetle, Jaime Reyes, who is Hispanic and lives in Texas.
Right.
And, I don't share the same identity with him other than being a man. But, when I was reading the first series that they did with him, I really loved it because he was a legitimate character. He was fully fleshed out. He was three-dimensional. And, there were a lot of great human moments in addition to all of the super heroics that he was doing. And that's why I loved the character. I always connected with characters more in a human level than an identity level.
Um, I mean, I agree with you. I've never myself been the I need to identify with the characters that I love most. I mean, my two favorite characters are Rorschach and Spawn. I'm neither an undead black man nor am I a derelict ginger. Um, I've never lived either of their lifestyles. I'm not in the military. From the aspect of Spawn, um, I'm not like a blind black and white type of justice dude. I like the characters because I think their adventures are cool when they were written good. Uh, and you don't have and what's scary is when you see the people that say they need to identify with something, you find that they feel that way with every single aspect of every single little thing with their life.
Yeah.
That it's not just the I need to have a superhero my exact color and lifestyle. It's I need everything that way. I need my book characters. I need my movie characters. I need my class to be this much of this color, this much of that color. This, you know what I mean? And it's that stuff that's taught and pushed down. Um, the nerd community was always the most open and accepting. In fact, we were desperately accepting. We wanted people to be nerds with us. Uh,
Yeah.
if you got someone asking you, "Oh, well, what's that Batman thing about?" Oh my God, did they make a mistake? Because you would unleash on them an hour's worth of backstory. You would sit there and you would gesticulate your favorite fight scenes. Uh, God, I mean, what I don't know what they're talking about of comic fans hating women. We wish there were women there. I wish there was women there. That would have been the greatest thing if there was girls there reading comics with us, because then we'd have girls there reading comics with us. You know,
Yeah. Do you know how awesome it would be if I could find a girl that I could read comics with? Like, holy crap.
look
That would
these
that would be the greatest thing ever.
these days the only women that I can talk comic book with are the women that are currently trying to court me in return. And they're giving me talking about comic books the equal type of attention that I am when they're explaining the things they're into. One of those, when is this going to go to the next step? You know what I mean? Uh,
Yeah.
I don't find that many women interested in comics. And hell, even when I do, they tend to already be taken anyways.
Yeah. But one other thing I noticed is that they're not just satisfied with, you know, new characters being created that fill their identities. They want currently existing characters changed to fit their identities. Like it's not
Oh,
just
yeah.
enough that you make Sam Wilson Captain America now. Captain America's black, but you want to change. I saw online that some people wanted to make Steve Rogers homosexual,
Oh, my
and
God.
I don't have a problem with homosexual characters. It's just Steve Rogers is not. And if you want to make a new one, that's perfectly fine. But I feel like characters who are classics should remain the way they are, and new ones should be created that can be true to who they are because that's who they were from the beginning.
My Ironically enough, my biggest problem with turning existing straight characters gay is I think it's insulting to gay people. That's insinuating they're not good enough to deserve their own character. We're just going to take this one already that's popular, paint it gay for you so you can have something that's popular. That's almost as if implying it's impossible to make a new gay character and that would be as cool and popular as loved as the existing one. And that kind of burns me, because then that's the whole, the soft bigotry of low expectations. Here, you'll be oh, we're just gonna slap a gay paint over this character, and there, that's yours. Shut up.
Well, I think it's also because certain characters, certain classic characters, are very mainstream. They are known to the wider public, so that's why they want those characters to be gay. Because a character like Hulkling or Wiccan isn't going to be like in a movie or necessarily on a TV show, but a character like Iceman will.
Right. And I mean, and I don't know, dude. It's that once again, it's that very sick mentality of making everything this monolithic diversity. Like every character must check off as many diversity boxes as possible so you can pander to as many people so that you can keep as many people under your ideological flag. And that's why you're right. They would take the popular mainstream character and try to change it, mainly to get back to that. We must have everything be in our image, and you force feed that to people enough and they start to believe in it.
But nerd culture it's always been accepting, and whenever I see this, people try to push this type of ideology into it, there's always a resistance from the people who've been there from the beginning. Like wherever you go, you see that people don't want this, yet for some reason, the people who are in charge all seem to adhere to this one ideology no matter where you go. It seems like whether it's Marvel Comics or game companies or Wizards of the Coast, they all seem to adhere to this same type of intersectional identity ideology. And when they start to push that in their products, they always seem to anger and or drive away fans who have supported them for a long time.
Right. And I kind of wish it wasn't like that. Because I think that's one of the things that's poisoning it. They're like purposely, trying to rally up. I mean, essentially, they're doing the raise drama points to get their stuff pushed. And God, have they gotten like a great army of people to just eat that stuff up constantly.
I mean, yeah, they eat it up, and there are people who support it, but when it actually comes time to lay down cash, I never see the same level of people who are praising it actually pay money for it. They always just seem to support it on the internet and tweet about it, but never seem to actually, patronize the companies they're talking about.
No. And not enough of them are willing to buy. A lot of people on that side just want to see the societal change. They're on the side of societal change. They don't care about the comic book itself. They just want to retweet new gay version of this character, new diverse version of this character. This is so progressive. I believe in it. Love me. I'm progressive and popular now. It's just the version of virtue signaling.
Yeah, virtue signal.
And then, one can make the argument of then, in a way, I pity the actual progressive customers that buy this stuff because they're being sold a dream. You're never good. Your comic is always going to get canceled and have to be restarted from the beginning. You're never going to have a consistent story. You're never going to have anything of worth. You're never going to have good writing to it. You're never going to have good art attached to it. They're going to take your money and still give you crap. And no one else is going to buy it. So there's not going to be enough reason to, get big names on it and give you something of worth. So it's very dirty to everybody they're involved with, these big companies. It's
Yeah.
disrespectful to everybody involved. It's disrespectful to the original fan that doesn't like it. It's disrespectful to the new fan that won't be getting their money's worth.
You mentioned cancellations. Yeah, they've canceled a number of these books, like Unstoppable Wasp, Iceman, Captain Marvel has gotten number ones. I think it's was like 6 times in 2 years.
Yeah. Oh, no one wants her. No
Yeah,
one.
and it seems that they're making ideological decisions when they really should be making business decisions.
Yeah. Um. But the business is pushing ideological stuff. It's not about the profit. The business is now completely about re-engineering society, and this is their role to play.
I mean, I understand that's what they want, but don't they, as a company, have a fiscal responsibility to make money for the people who are shareholders?
Yeah, sure, they do it all the time, and that's why there's like 100 million movies.
Aren't the movies and the actual books separate?
It's called. I mean, it's still just money funging. It's all going to go to the same place. It would all come down to how they section out money. Because clearly they keep pumping it out. So the issue that they're not making money isn't a problem, which means something else is funding it. That's the one thing I've come to the conclusion of on my own. And I don't have like proof or like any kind of outlines or anything, but that's just what makes sense in my head. They have to have something else funding it because clearly the numbers aren't there to support it. After all these years, it should have already shut down,
Well,
but it's not going to.
in Marvel's case, the thing funding it would be Disney.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel Disney only bought Marvel purely for the movie rights.
I think that's one aspect. I think Disney's buying everything to have full influence on over certain stuff. You know?
Disney's becoming the. I feel like if Disney continues the way it's going to be the Empire from Star Wars.
Yeah. Well, all those I mean, all the big companies, including the big tech companies, that's where they're all going to right now. They're all becoming these dominant, huge, evil space stations, um, and they're starting to gain control over themselves to where they kind of can do whatever they. I mean, look at Twitter. I mean, Twitter, please. I mean, does whatever it wants. I mean, it even can go in front of Congress and lie, completely get away with it.
All right, back on to the subject of Comicsgate.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Considering how Move the Needle failed, do you think that if we tried to shift tone and be more positive, it would be successful? Or do you think that the damage that's already been done to
I think
the
it's done.
brand is already too much?
I think it's done. Move on. Be positive. Share the stuff you like. If you're gonna rip on somebody, be funny, be clever, make it entertaining. If you're gonna do it, it you know, support who you like, but without ripping down other people. That would help too. It should be more about support who you like, and not so much about putting down who you don't.
Are there any
especially
books or
especially within the in like the inner community of creators and fans.
are there any books or titles that you support?
I support the Jack Iron series. I support the Rags series, Sportman, the Aldrake series, Little Girl Lethal, anything coming out of animations. I support Changeling, everything coming out under Wicked. I also am the art behind Charger, that's recently been picked up by Wicked. Um, one of my favorite indie books of the year, The Ferryman. Oh, such a good read. Um, I actually support a lot of projects. Um, Anything from Tim Lim, you really good friend of mine, always has my support. Uh, in a way, I kind of regret not ordering Cyberfrog, uh, because art wise, I'm a huge fan.
Yeah.
Uh, I actually am a huge fan art wise, and I know how to separate the artist from uh, the creator.
Yeah.
Uh,
EVS is actually one of my favorite artists. The reason I'm a big Green Lantern fan to this day is partly because of his art. When I was first getting into comics, one of the first books I read was Green Lantern Rebirth.
yeah. You know what I mean? Like I said, as far as the art goes, I really like his inking style. And I like the way his finished pages look with the color. Uh, um, can't wait for that to come out to see if maybe somebody lets me borrow a copy and I'll read it, or at least lets me see what the cool art on the page, because that's really what I want to see from it is the art. Um,
When you're thinking about purchasing a book, are you more focused on story or artwork?
as an artist, art comes first. Uh, but I also want to be able to read something good. I tend to, I'll read the book through and then I'll look through it again over and over and over again for the art. And then I'll start to reread it to pick up good stuff that maybe I didn't get.
If a book has great art but a mediocre story, would you come back to it?
Probably not. Probably not, but I would support the art team. I would
So,
probably continually like retweet whatever the art team is updating on it. Um, any covers they've recently worked on. I probably wouldn't continue to read the book. You know what I mean? Because if I'm not entertained reading it, I don't want to just, I'm not going to give the money just to have the pictures in my hand.
all right.
So where
I
art is very important, it's not what's going to keep me in a book. You got to have the story there too.
Personally, I am more of a story first person. I write myself. I write sometimes to, just clear my mind. But one moment. Currently, I'm writing the script for my first comic, and yeah, a good story is definitely something that draws me in a bit more than the artwork. But I do love great art. There are a number of artists who I want to do a dedicated video to. So we've been here for over an hour. So I guess this is a good place to stop.
All right.
Thank you, Mr. Mahvel. You've been a great guest.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
All right. And to everybody watching this, you've all been great guests too. And please come again to the House of Mystery.